Waiting for those damn royalties to show up in your bank account is one of the hardest parts about getting started with sync licensing. I hear this from so many members, from so many students, from so many Sync Academy members that are always in this frustrated, impatient mode, just trying to work really hard, trying to get to the point where they start seeing some income, but it's just taking so long. And it seems like every time the royalty checks go out, they don't get one or they get a really small one. And so there's just this constant aggravation going on with a lot of producers in this business. So with this presentation right here, I'm going to basically talk to you about how to reframe your expectations for royalties and also how to just completely reframe your entire vision of the future of your career in sync licensing to hopefully, in the effort to, at the end of this, have you relieve a lot of that anxiety and a lot of that worry, because a lot of it is based on fear. A lot of the stuff that's going on with most of you in terms of worrying about the future of your royalties and how much you're going to make, or if you're going to make anything at all, it's all obviously a fear that's underneath. And so we're going to basically dive into some of those fears and talk about how we can relieve them and how we can deal with them rather than just sitting and worrying and getting more and more frustrated and more burned out or bummed out about this business, how we can be more productive and solve that and actually move forward in this industry. All right. So this will be a good one. Let's move forward here. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the reality of royalties and sync licensing, which was this slide right here will seem pretty dark by the end of it, but you'll understand why I need to put all this up there, because this is about putting your expectations in the right place properly, okay? You guys should all know this stuff. It's pretty much a refresher, but I do need to make sure that everybody's watching, no matter where you are. If you're brand new to sync licensing or you don't know what's going on here, you know what the reality is of what you're getting into when it comes to this business, okay? So it does take that 9 to 12 months for your royalties to show up in your PRO account, into your bank account rather, and that's 9 to 12 months after the TV show airs. Okay, so that's not 9 to 12 months after you get accepted by a library. You might get accepted by a library, and it takes you 6 months to get that first placement, and so it's 9 to 12 months after that 6 months. So we're talking about a long-term plan here. I want to make sure you guys are all very clear on that. Okay. And it's a slow build to get to that point where your royalties are consistently delivering for you and keeping you afloat and maybe paying your bills. I think at least 2 years you're going to have to wait to see that kind of income, probably more for most people. Some can start off in this industry really quickly. I know a few that in their first year, they're doing well. They're getting hundreds of placements. They're getting big sync fees, and they're pretty much knocking it out of the park very quickly. But I have not seen that be the norm. That's pretty much the exception to the rule for the vast majority of producers. 2, 3, 4, 5 years is about usually what people have to take in order to get to that point where they're actually seeing the kind of income that can pay their bills. Okay, so just a reality. Got to make sure you guys know that. You cannot predict what your royalties are going to be, what each individual quarterly check is going to be for you. Would be great if we could, would be awesome if we had a really transparent system so we could see exactly what we could anticipate, because that would be a lot easier, right? If you knew that in 3 months you were going to get a check for $5,000, that would make you feel a lot better and relieve a lot of your anxiety about what you're going to get paid. But it's always a surprise. You just open up your email and you look at that check or that royalty statement, and it's either a great day or it's a very disappointing, depressing day. But there's really no way to prepare yourself for that, and there's no way to predict your check amounts, okay? So that's also a challenge, and it's a reality that we have to deal with. And we're not getting 100% transparency from the PROs, okay? They do a great job for what they do, but we really, because of the lack of transparency, we don't really know what the formula is, the algorithm or the calculations for how they're determining why you're getting paid a certain amount per placement versus others. They have their own kind of hidden formulas for how they do that. We obviously can't see what those checks are going to be in the future. They don't let us see that. So there's a lot of this stuff for us as producers, as composers. We just don't get to see through what's happening with our royalties and what we're going to be getting. So we have to just deal with that. That's just a reality. It would be great if it's more transparent. Maybe in the future, there'll be new solutions that will provide more transparency. But for right now, as you're watching this tutorial, there is none. So this is basically the best that we got. The PROs are the only game in town, and they're basically giving us the only chance we have at doing this full time. Okay, so we have to be aware of that. And obviously we have to adapt and put our expectations in the right place with this. And as I said before, when you get those royalty checks, it's either really exciting when it completely blows away your expectations, or if you had high expectations and you got a low check amount, you are really disappointed. And that's where I've been more often than not, is been disappointed and thinking that I was going to get a really big check and then not getting it and going, damn, like one more time, I gotta wait another 3 months to see if that next one's gonna finally hit the expectations, the level that I think I should be getting for how much work I'm putting into this industry. And I know a lot of you guys feel that way too, that you've been putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and to not see, the royalties that you feel that you should be earning at that point, to see them constantly be disappointing, that's just what we have to deal with. So you see this whole list and you think, why the hell am I doing sync licensing, right? Really good question, because there's a lot of challenges here. I'm not going to call them problems, but that's a lot of challenges that a lot of people don't have to deal with when they just go get a regular day job, right? Day jobs, you get your check every 2 weeks. You know how much you're going to get. There's transparency there. You know that if you at least just show up and do a, kind of a decent job, you're going to get your paycheck. So there's a lot more, I guess, predictability when it comes to certain other types of work. But with this industry, it is completely kind of a crapshoot in many ways. We have to really just kind of believe in ourselves, believe in the process, believe in the industry, of course, and in our library partners, but just really have faith that this is going to work out, really. So why are we doing all this? This last point. These are all the prices you have to pay for passive income in the music business, okay, especially in the sync licensing business. So these are all tough. These are all challenges. And this is why, probably this one slide alone, is why 95% of producers do not succeed. Is because this is really, really, really hard stuff to get through, to find motivation to push through, to figure out how to either earn some side income to make ends meet, or how to reduce your living expenses so that you just don't have a lot of expenses per month that you have to worry about. This is way easier said than done. Really, really tough stuff. But if you want to get to the point where you're able to say to others and to yourself that you are making passive income off of your music, like I do every single quarter, this is the price you got to pay. And I've heard this from a few different people, and I think it totally makes sense, is that some people think that in order to succeed, it's just about luck and like just being in the right place at the right time and all that kind of stuff. And I think that certainly some luck plays into like if you get a particular placement or not. But in terms of how many placements I've gotten in my career and how well I've done, you'd have to really believe in some crazy miracle to think that I got lucky that many times over and over and over again. Basically, what I did, and I think what you should do, is if you want something in life, go find out what the price of it is and pay it. And that's really what your path is to success. And I'm showing you on this one slide, this is your price to succeed in sync licensing. You got to pay this price, right? Patience, hanging in there, dealing with a lot of unknowns, probably making a lot of sacrifices, and having a lot of faith in yourself, especially a long-term amount of faith in yourself, and basically foregoing the want to get immediate gratification and knowing that it's worth it in the long run for the passive income that can continuously pour into your bank account with placements that air over and over again and get aired in other countries. And we've talked about that in other videos and other tutorials. So this is the price you got to pay right here. Okay, so make your choice if this is the price you're willing to pay. Let's talk about what are the specific points that gives most of you guys anxiety. And this is what I've gotten from our chats in the syndicate and in Sync Academy and a lot of the comments you guys have made. So these are the most common ones that I've heard, okay? A lot of you guys are wondering, what if my royalties just never come? I'm working, and like years go by and I just never even get one royalty check. Well, that would really be a bummer. That would really suck, right? So that's a really valid fear that you'd probably be dealing with. So we'll talk about that. Another one, what if my royalties do come, but they're really small? They're just pennies. And like, what if the industry isn't going to be able to deliver me the kind of income that I need to sustain myself full time? So yeah, I make a couple $100 here and there, but I can't live on a couple $100. So what if all of this is just not going to be profitable enough? I'll get placements, but just not enough. Okay, that's another one. A lot of you guys are wondering, can I even make it financially until my royalties show up in 9 to 12 months from whenever I get a placement? What if that's 2 years from now? Like, do I have the savings? Do I have side gigs I can do? What can I do? Am I going to make it for 2 years as I go through this kind of crazy journey? Is this going to actually work out for me, right? Definitely a very valid fear that a lot of you guys feel. And of course, the biggest one, which kind of summarizes all of this, is just how do I get through this waiting period, right? Because the waiting period is the toughest part of this business. Once you get through the initial couple of years of waiting for the royalties to come in, and then you start to see the consistency, your anxiety really drops because you realize, oh yeah, I've been making a certain amount of money every single quarter, and it goes up and down, but it's like it doesn't break out of this range that I've been comfortably at for a couple of years now. And so that anxiety sort of drifts away and you get away from that waiting period. But yeah, right now, I think almost everybody watching this, you guys are in the waiting period. It's like the waiting room essentially to get to the point where you're doing this full time. So what are some tips and strategies and methods to get through that mentally, right? That's what we're talking about with the Sync Psych period here. series here rather. So let's talk about this first one. What if my royalties just never show up? So what is the root cause of this fear? Well, it's obviously, if you think about it, it's a fear that you're just not going to get any placements, right? Assuming you got accepted into a library, right? That would be step one, that maybe you get into a library and they just don't get you placed at all. So you have all these tracks, hundreds, maybe thousands of tracks in a library, and nothing's getting placed. And really, if you can go further on this, I put this here as this is a lack of control fear, right? Can you control who comes and takes your music for their TV show? You have no control over that, right? So you have to accept the fact that, like, okay, a lot of this stuff is just out of my control, and that sucks. It's never a good feeling to know that, like, a big chunk of your success, how well you're going to do, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with completely, like, other people and their subjective tastes on what they're looking for and whatever their project happens to be and what kind of music they happen to be looking for. We have no control over any of that. So I definitely just want to validate all of you guys that are dealing with this. This is real for most of us, and I still deal with this myself, of just not knowing or having no control over what happens with why people picked my track or didn't pick my track. Okay. So we need to talk about a choice, though. This is definitely a choice, and I think a lot of you guys maybe are not aware that you are making a choice when you just kind of sit in the worry mode and the fear mode and kind of just thinking about that all the time. When you're just sitting in that, even when you're working on music, you're like, no, I'm just going to work. But in the back of your mind, you're still in this sort of like, yeah, but what if I don't make any money? But what if I don't do this, right? That is actually a choice you're making. A lot of us don't think that it's a choice. We just think it's just like an automatic thing that our brain does. But it's basically a bad habit that our brain has gotten used to, and we continuously choose to enact and basically fuel that fear because we're not supplying anything else to our brains, right? We're going to talk a little bit about the psychology of that. So when you don't supply actively a positive vision or something different, just a different thought pattern going on in your head, and you just sort of give into whatever you're feeling, well, that bad habit will come in and it'll start to just wreak havoc all over your brain, telling you that it might not work out and maybe this is just all a waste of time and you probably won't make any money and you're going to look like a fool, and all of those voices start coming in. And that's not your natural state. That's actually not who you are. That is actually just a bad habit that's just running amok. It's like these grooves that got placed into your brain. And because we haven't put any active countermeasures in place and new thought patterns in place, that just is the autopilot. It's just kind of running that way. So hopefully at the end of this presentation, we can add a new positive, productive way of thinking so that other side starts to drift and not become your default that you usually go to subconsciously most of the time. Okay. So rather than doing that, as I said here, we're going to work to increase our odds to do much better. Okay. What can we control? That's essentially what it is. Knowing the difference between what we can't control and what we can, and the things that we can. Let's put all of our, like, that nervous energy, let's put that towards that so that we can increase our odds of securing more placements, right? It makes sense. What else? If you can think of a better way to deal with this fear, you let me know. But this is the only way that I've been able to deal with this fear, is to go to take action rather than sitting and worrying, because inaction is going to make this worse. You're going to just overanalyze it, think about it more. So the antidote to the worry is work, action, doing things. So this is going to be some humble pie for a lot of you guys, but a lot of you might need to really start comparing your tracks that you have with the current library to the best in that library's catalog, right? And I know a lot of us, I didn't want to do this in the beginning because I didn't want to admit that I was pretty much the weakest producer on the catalogs that I was submitting to. My tracks were not standing out, not loud enough, didn't sound just satisfactory enough, decent, got placed, but certainly not as wow. It didn't have the wow factor that the other tracks that I was in competition with in my catalog had. Okay. So this is just one of those things where you got to go spend an afternoon, light a candle, listen to some music, listen to your music, and just be honest. Try to be as honest as you possibly can to say, am I really at the competitive level that I think that I will be in contention with all these other great sounding awesome tracks? If the answer is yes, great. You've already done your homework. You've been doing great with your producing, mixing and mastering skills, and you've been putting in that time to do that. The answer is no. You got work to do, right? And what better way to deal with this fear than to go do work? You can control the quality of your tracks. That is something you can absolutely control. You can work towards improving that. You can't control whether or not somebody else uses your tracks, but you can definitely make sure that when your tracks do get uploaded and when you submit new tracks to your library, that you stand out, that your tracks kind of are at the cream of the crop. This is so big. I can't believe a lot of producers don't do this, but you need to be communicating regularly with your library. And I mean pretty much every week, maybe every 2 weeks at the least. But there should be a constant conversation of, hey, how you guys doing? What are you working on? What are your clients this month? What kind of projects are you guys shopping for? What can I do to really be of use? If you're just submitting music to your library because you're like, well, I want to make rock music, so I'm just going to submit them rock music, and you just keep doing that, but you have no communication with them. You don't know what they're pitching for. Maybe they're doing hip hop rock, and if you could just add a little bit of hip hop into your rock and make it sound believable and high quality enough, you could be the one jumping into these placements. So if you don't have a relationship really with the library that you're partnering with, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You have to, this is a people business at the end of the day, and they have to really know you. It's not even just about like knowing what their projects are, but for them to just kind of have a kinship with you, to really care about you, to know your name, to hear your voice, to read your words when you email them, and just share nice thoughts back and forth with each other and wishing them well and that kind of stuff. Guess whose tracks they kind of want to sort of push along when an opportunity comes? You're the one that's actually like checking in with them, and you care about them as a human being, right? You're not just seeing them as this faceless entity trying to get them money and trying to get you placements, that kind of thing, right? But you actually really care about them. So if you're not regularly communicating with your library, that's again something else you can control. You can set reminders for yourself and make sure you email or text or call your library people every week. I really do think every week is a good place, a good pacing to be in. Of course, you can control this as well as creating a system of daily productivity, okay? So the fear of, I don't know if I'm gonna get placements in the future, some of that could be due to the fact that maybe you're only making music a couple of weeks out of the month, and then you kind of burn out and you don't do it again, then you get excited and you go back. So rather than going through this back and forth, you can kind of put all that effort into, how do I make sure that I'm just consistently making music that I love, enjoying it, and constantly serving the needs of my library? Because that's a system. Okay, that system right there is immediately going to increase your chances of way more placements, of actually getting royalties down the future. Okay, if you don't have a system like that right now and all you're doing is creating tracks when you feel like it and then worrying about not getting placements, that's not a system at all. Okay, that's really actually going to do much more harm and decrease your odds more drastically than anything else. So I've always told producers, it's better if you can only dedicate 20 minutes a week to producing music, but you can consistently do that every single week. That is better than the producer that can do 40 hours this week and nothing the next because he burned out and he doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay, it's better to start with wherever you are and just consistently do it every single day or every single week, whatever works for you. Consistency is so much more powerful than, hot and cold, going through the roller coaster thing. Okay, as through all of this stuff, you're basically focusing on what you can control rather than sitting in the fear of what you can't. Okay. The next one is, what if my royalties are really small? They show up, but they're not much to talk about, okay? This is going to be very similar to the last slide, so there's a lot of overlap here, okay? Root cause is not fear of no placements, but fear of maybe the wrong placements, right? So you're just getting kind of tiny little things here and there. You're getting some, but it's just not enough. And you're not getting the kind of placements that are really boosting your income, right? And again, same thing, lack of control. You can't really control where your tracks get placed in a TV show. It's really up to the client, the supervisor, the editor, whoever that is in charge of making that choice. So again, we have to make a choice. Do you want to let that fear kind of run amok and just be your sort of normal default mode, or do you want to increase your odds and start to put new habits? And we'll talk about beliefs and what those new thinking patterns can be and visions that you can have for yourself that will actually help kind of counteract all that negativity that you might be struggling with right now, okay? So one thing you can do, obviously, is start trying to create tracks and craft tracks that stand out so that they could be in contention for themes, jingles, more prominent placements that usually get those higher sync fees and royalties. How do you make something that stands out? Well, having an iconic theme, like a melody that really just is like, wow, it's catchy. It really just gives you this sense of like, there's something unique and very special about that melody. And I think I could see it paired with a sort of brand or an icon or a logo or an image or something like that, okay? So basically creating tracks, and even if they don't land in a theme or a jingle or anything like that, music that has that sort of X quality factor where they just feel like just anthemic, just really, really big, almost like a hit song is kind of what you're trying to compose. If it has that just likability, people usually will want to place it a lot because they like to hear it a lot, right? So this is also a little psychology trick that you'll learn, maybe if you haven't learned in this business, that sometimes it is really just about, we want to make sure that this music matches the emotion of whatever we're going for. And that's certainly probably the number one concern. But close right after that is, does the music supervisor like listening to that track, right? Does that song get stuck in your head, or does that song make you want to move or just make you feel good in some way? If your track has that and it's standing out that way, and it's not just, all right, just another hip hop track or just another rock track, but it really makes the listener feel something really good, and it has that sort of like standout quality, that's what a lot of producers or editors, supervisors are going to select, because they're going to have to listen to these tracks over and over again as they go through their edits, right? They listen to this stuff for hundreds, maybe even thousands of times. So why wouldn't they want to pick a track that they like, that they're just really into? So try to remember that it's still human beings listening to your music. And so they have to love your song and feel something with your song in order to want to select it, because they know I'm going to have to listen to that song 700 times. And if your song just doesn't have that factor, it's probably not going to stand out and be selected. Again, just as before, you need to be talking with your library, asking them what their projects are, what they're working on, if they do any sync fee opportunities, any custom gigs, any jingles, anything big like that. Ask them. Sometimes they don't go to every single writer and say, hey, this is what we're working on, would you like to submit? They might just go to a few that they know have a track record of doing these kind of gigs. But if you're fairly new to the library and they don't know that that's what you're available for, put it out there and let them know. I would love to work on any themes, jingles, ads, commercials, anything like that. Please let me know. I'd love to be included in those. So talking to your library, letting them know that you're available for those kind of gigs, really, really important. Obviously, rather than just submitting music that you think is cool and that you want to do, talk to your client about, and your client at this point would be your music library. What do they need and what do their clients need? What are they into? Okay. So if you're just ignoring that or not even having those conversations and putting music that you think is cool, yeah, your music's in their catalog, but you're probably going to have the wrong kind of placements, small kind of placements, maybe no placements, because you're not in a service mindset at that point. You're just thinking, oh, I just need to get 300 tracks into a library and then my full-time income comes. That's not how it works. 300 tracks that are geared towards the needs of the clients of the library, that's a path towards success. Not just 300 tracks because the library goes, sure, we'll take them. We don't really need them right now, but at some point we'll need them. That's not the kind of situation you want, where they're just accepting your tracks and you're like, cool, they're in there, but you have no idea if it's really even relevant for what they're pitching for. Okay, so make sure that this is kind of top of your mind when you're talking to your companies. Again, we focus on what we can control. So how about, are you going to be able to make it financially until the royalties show up? A really big issue for a lot of you guys. Root cause is that you are limiting your future vision of your success. So basically, it's another way of saying it's like there's a lack of an abundance. You kind of don't feel like there's enough success to go around for you. And so maybe you're not going to be able to make it until then, because you just don't see the path. You don't see how you're going to be able to financially make it when you're kind of working towards this thing for a couple of years, right? So we're going to talk about how to basically deal with this. And this is where we start to get into more visualizing and kind of creating a new pattern of thinking rather than getting stuck in that sort of really negative stuff that we do. Everything starts with how you see your future playing out. So right now, for those of you that are dealing with this and you're in this worry of like, I may or may not make it, your future, the vision that you have for your future is 50-50. You're basically just giving yourself this sort of like, I could fail, I could do well, I don't really know. But the fact that you're even like worried about it, it kind of gives the fail side of your equation more weight. So actually, when you have this doubt about the future success of yourself, you're kind of giving that more power and basically allowing that to be your vision of, okay, in the future, I will probably fail. I probably won't make it because I'm so worried that I'm not going to make it. That's what you're thinking about, right? You're so worried and thinking about this lack of success, lack of abundance, lack of money, lack of placements, lack of not being able to make it until the royalties show up, that is all that your brain is being consumed by. How well do you think you're going to do with that being your vision of the future, right? Is it possible to succeed when all you're thinking about is how you're going to fail or that you're probably going to fail, or you're just worried that you might fail? No, you're probably not going to get to the point you want to get if that is what you're seeing for yourself. So it really makes a big difference for your success, for how right now, wherever you are in your career, what you see for yourself coming up in the future. So this is what I recommend. Meditate, do a vision board, do some affirmations, just do any of them or all of them, okay? Meditation is basically all you got to do. Sit quietly, think about the future of your success, and think about yourself getting royalty checks. Visualize yourself working with a library and getting great upfront sync fees and constantly getting new gigs and being pleasantly surprised when you get poured in all these royalties moving forward. Meditate and just visualize all that. Just close your eyes and think about all this stuff. 5 minutes a day, tops. That's all you really have to do. 5 minutes a day in the morning, first off, before you start creating music, and just meditate on that. Or whenever you start creating your music, just have a little 5 minute meditation. You can work it up to 10 minutes, 20 minutes if you want. 5 minutes is really all you need to just start creating a new form of thinking, right? You're now putting a new vision in front of yourself. That's not the worry. It's not the fear. It's not the doubt. You have to actively do this stuff though. This doesn't just come naturally for a lot of us. We have to, it didn't come naturally for me. I had to actively start meditating, actively start envisioning what my future is going to be. Vision board, that's basically where you just have a nice big piece of paper up on your wall, and you can either have a picture of what your future life looks like. You could have a huge royalty, kind of a fake royalty check, but it has a big, $1 million on it. You could you could have a bunch of TVs up there with TV shows, and you have your music, symbolically being placed on it. Just something that every time you come into your studio, you see this vision of what your future is going to be. Some people like to put themselves, they want a picture of the beach. They want a picture of some vacation spot that they love. They're like, hey, this is what I'm doing this for, because I want to eventually have enough income, passive income, that I can just go on vacation whenever I want. Or maybe it's a vision of your family, spending more time with them. Whatever it is, put up a vision board. Seeing it visually, we're very visual creatures, and so it makes a big difference. Affirmations, we've talked about that in some of these other video tutorials, where we're basically saying to ourselves, I will succeed, I will have royalties, I will do very well in this business. I'm going to be a full-time sync licensing producer. I'm on a path to do that. I have the abundance to be able to do that. There's so many ways you can do these kind of things, but you're basically, again, actively putting positive thoughts into your head and positive visions into your head about what you're going to do, so that default negative fear doesn't just take hold and start to destroy you, right? When you envision opportunities, that's when you find opportunities. It's this weird thing. I don't know if I couldn't prove it to you scientifically, but when I envision, I remember so many times that I would envision myself wanting to open up new opportunities for the syndicate. When I wanted to get into new libraries and start pitching, I would envision sending an email to a company and them responding to me very quickly saying they love it and we're going to work with them. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Okay. Not a guarantee. I'm not going to say it's going to guarantee happen every single time. But the way that my life has shown and proven is that when I envision and I can visualize what the future of this success is going to look like, 9 times out of 10, it works out that way, almost exactly how I envisioned it. Whatever that is, I don't know. Maybe we are in the matrix and we do have some sort of unknown brain power that we're tapping into and learning how to do it. But this is for sure not just my experience, for a lot of people that I know that have done really well in their field of choice, that they've envisioned the opportunity, they've envisioned the success, and that's when they started to see them. That's when they started to actually encounter the successes. Right now, of course, you can make a list of the skills or talents that you can sell right now. So a lot of you guys, I think everybody has some sort of a skill, some sort of a talent. Could be musically related, could be not musically related, of something that you could offer as a side gig right now to start to supplement your income, and something that hopefully doesn't take so much time away from your creating music. But if you want to do the sort of 1099 independent contractor route, that's what I did. Is I just had a couple of video clients. I shot videos for corporate clients for a couple of years as I was getting my career started. No shame in that at all. Okay, you're not unsuccessful if you have to make ends meet by sort of independently contracting your way through some of those the waiting period essentially. So if it's what you got to do, it's what you got to do, right? And so you can make those kind of lists right now. Of course, if you have a job, then maybe you got to realize that that's going to be something that you need to hold on to for the security, but taking those nights and weekends, obviously, to do everything that you can to build up your music. But there's a lot of you guys that you probably don't even realize that you might have some skills and talents right now that would allow you to quit your day job. Obviously after you've gotten some clients. I don't think that's a smart idea, just quit it and then start an independent contract job, but just start it now, get a couple of clients under your belt, and then see if you can start to supplement your income enough so you could get out of the day job. And now you can 1099 your way to full-time income with sync licensing. It's kind of like you're swinging from branch to branch. Be flexible. Success is never a straight path for anybody on planet Earth. Okay, so this is an example of what I was just talking about, that you might think and envision yourself like, well, I just need to work at my day job and then just keep making on music, and then one day I'll get that royalty check. It'll be so big that I just call my boss and say, screw you, I'm out of there. It might work out that way, but more than likely it won't. Okay, there's probably going to be a bunch of hills and valleys and different things and all these different places that you might be going that you didn't even know you would be going. Just be flexible, roll with the punches, be spontaneous, and just know that that is a part of the journey. I have this really cool graphic at the end of this presentation I wanted to show you guys just to exemplify that, okay? The best thing you can do to ensure your future success and to ensure you're going to be wealthy and that you're going to be valuable is create unbelievable value for anybody you work with, for your clients, for your libraries, for other producers you work with. It doesn't matter. Whenever you interact with them, be so useful and so valuable, so over delivering for them that they just can't forget you and that they want to come back to you over and over again because you created so much value for them. Okay, that's my philosophy with Sync My Music, with Sync Academy, with my licensing career. Anytime somebody works with me, I want them to go like, damn, like, yes, he's good. Like, he really gets the job done. That's my brand. Like, that's what I want people to think of me when they interact with me, when they work with me in any manner, okay? And I'm not always perfect. I make mistakes, so will you. That's not what we're talking about here. But overall, I do want that to be what people remember me as and what they think of me as. And I've seen a direct correlation between how much value I provide people to how much wealth and success and just value I'm getting from the world and from human beings and from sync licensing and everything else, okay? It is a 1-to-1 ratio. Before you start asking for things, give so much value, and you will see those things come back to you tenfold. I promise you that. How do you get through this crazy waiting period, right? This is a real tough one, and this is kind of the overall fear that a lot of us are dealing with. The root cause here is pretty funny. Sorry, you're a human being, and all human beings just want stuff now. That's just in our biology. It's in our DNA. We want to get the most amount of reward for the least amount of effort, and that is not something that you and I invented. That's not something that came about because of this year. This has been the life story of human beings for forever, for as long as we've been on Earth, okay? And what we're doing here in sync licensing is challenging, very challenging, as we talked about with that first slide. And therefore, here's the flip side, it is rewarding, okay? Things that are challenging are also, by default, they have to be rewarding as long as you're seeing them that way, right? If it's challenging and then you just stop, well, that was just a bummer. That just kind of bummed you out and that sucks. But if you see it as a challenge to get to that passive income for continuous long-term royalties, that's why it's challenging. It's because it's going to be rewarding for you down the road. So remember, you could even write this down as an affirmation. This is challenging, therefore it is rewarding. Put that on your wall. That's a really good one, actually. Deferring gratification is a requirement for long-term success. Anybody that's done well in their business can tell you that those that are not able to go, okay, I know I'm not going to get a paycheck right now, but this is for the long-term rewards I'm going to get down the road. If you don't have that ability, sorry, there's just nothing for you. It's just not going to work out because 95% of people can't do this. Like 95% of people want that paycheck in 2 weeks. And if you're not giving them a paycheck in 2 weeks, they want nothing to do with it. And that's why they'll stay on the paycheck lifestyle. It's because they can't get out of that way of thinking, right? Because they just want the gratification right now so they can go buy those things that they really want right now. They can't see the long-term vision of, okay, this is going to hurt a little bit right now because I can't, or it's going to be a little bit hard to get through this part, but I'm doing this for a much longer benefit, okay? So the pain you go through now pays for, it's the price, as we talked about, the long-term benefits that you get down the road, right? This is a fun one. Become the hero of your music career, right? If your life was a script in a Hollywood movie, how would you write it, right? And wouldn't you be the hero of that movie? I think you would. And what kind of storyline do you have going on in your life right now? Well, right now, you are the hero that all odds are stacked against you, right? And you have a long waiting period and there's a lot of unknowns. And the only thing that could get you through this period of time is faith in yourself and taking active measures to make sure that you had a positive mindset and you were really productive during this waiting period of your career. And so that you can see the end of the story, right? Look at the end of the movie. How does your movie end? What do you, the hero, get out of the end of the movie? How do the great Hollywood movies end? What do the heroes usually get at the end, okay? I'm not going to tell you what that is. You create that story. So these are fun exercises, really, really fun exercises. You get to be a kid again, actually. You kind of get to use your imagination again and turn yourself into a hero in a movie. This is the kind of stuff. This is envisioning your success. This is changing the way that you've probably been thinking about yourself and your career and actually putting yourself in this really fun, different frame of mind, essentially, right? Really important here, too, you need to write down the why. Why are you patient right now? Why are you waiting to get royalties? Why are you dedicating years and years of your life to this? I mean, if you don't have a why for why you're doing this, Maybe you are crazy, actually. Maybe you should go get your head checked out by a doctor, because this is really tough stuff. So if you don't know exactly why you're doing this, right? Are you doing this so you can have more time with your family? Are you doing this because you've always just known that you can make music full time for a living, and you just always have wanted that? That's always just been just a dream, a really awesome dream of yours. Are you doing it because you just love creating music, and this avenue is something that just suits your personality and your traits well, and you just feel really competent when you make music, and you just feel really good, and then when you feel good, you kind of like make those around you feel better because you're just in a better mood. I mean, you're going to make the world a better place because you're feeling good. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's really, really important. If you don't have a why for you're going through all this craziness, you are going to burn out. Like there's going to be so many times where you're disappointed and you're frustrated and bummed, that if you don't have this clear thing that just pushes you through. And I do think it's not about even putting it in your head, writing it down again, putting it on a sticky note right next to your DAW on your wall so you can see this all the time. It's really, really important. Oh, right. So we skipped a couple there. Of course, connect, come out of your shell, come out of your hiding when you're really feeling kind of bummed out or just impatient or worried. Connect with your other members here in Sync Academy, okay? Or if you have other producers that are doing this, or family or friends, or anybody that you feel that you can really connect with. But obviously Sync Academy, that's one of the main reasons why we're here for each other, is to get through the tough times. Not just always share, in our successes and what's going great, but also when you're feeling like, man, does anybody else feel this way? I'm kind of feeling a little bit bummed out. Guarantee you're not the only one. I can guarantee you 100% certainty there are other members that are feeling the same way. And so when you just connect with other people and just vent and kind of share how you're feeling, sometimes that's all it takes for you to get through that hump. It's just venting it out. It's kind of like you got a little kind of poison gas kind of in you, and you just need to let it out. Like, this is what I'm feeling. And as soon as it's out of you, you go, oh, okay, other people feel that too. So it's not the end of the world. I can keep going. So really make sure that you do voice your concerns and connect, okay? Remember everything, including this waiting period, including the fear, including the anxiety, including the, oh, I don't know if it's going to work out. That's all a part of the journey. That's all included in the journey. Some people think that because they're feeling worried about the success, they're worried, they're not sure if they're going to do well, they're kind of getting impatient. They think that that's not a part of that, like those things weren't a part of my journey or other people that have succeeded. That they might think that, well, Jesse must have just smooth sailed right through to full-time income and he had no worries. I hope I haven't given anybody that impression, because it wasn't like that at all. It's always challenging, even to this day, working in this business. But these are all things that are a part of your journey to success. They're included, right? So this is a big circle of all of the events and happenings that go on your path towards full-time success. Being bummed out that you didn't get a good royalty check is in there. It's not outside of it, okay? It doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path when you get bummed out. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong when you're worried about these things. These are all included in the plan, okay? That you don't get to full-time income, in fact, without some of these fears and anxieties and worries being a part of the package. So as long as you have that expectation, that's why we're reframing your expectations here. Once you have that in your, oh, okay, I'm feeling bummed right now because I got a really low royalty check. That's right. This is a part of the journey. I'm doing the right thing. That's huge, right? I don't think you even realize maybe how big that is until you're in that situation. But a lot of people think, well, because I didn't get a big royalty check, I must be doing something wrong. Okay, I guess this isn't for me. And it's like, oh no, you have no idea. Like, it's so arrogant to think that only that happened to you, right? That only you're the one that had to deal with a disappointing royalty check, or you're the only one that got rejected from a library or didn't get the custom queue. Oh, that's so egotistical. That's so arrogant. That's so one-sidedness. I for sure, every other producer I know that does this full time, you're in our camp. You're in our essentially in our shadow. You're doing exactly what we did, and you're going through exactly what we went through when we were in that process of our career. So just always keep that in mind. It's all part of the journey. So as we wrap this one up here, make sure you try to challenge yourself to create a hero story for yourself, right? We're going to start to change the negative thinking by creating a really fun, awesome superhero movie sort of narrative for our life, okay? Write down your why. Very important. Everybody should actually do this at the end of this video. Don't move on to another tutorial or do anything else until you have this down. And if you don't know what your why is, meditate for 5 minutes and try to really dig down and figure out exactly why are you doing this. Maybe it's going to take you a week to figure out that why, maybe a month. This should be at the top of your list though. Why are you doing all this kind of stuff? Because this is pretty crazy. This is pretty nuts. You better have a good reason for why you're doing this. And I know that your family members probably need you to have a really good reason for why you're doing this. Reach out when you are bummed out, okay? Reach out to somebody. Post on Sync Academy if you're a member with us. Reach out to somebody that you know that's a music producer or a musician in any way that they can kind of relate to you. Of course, when we're in the sync licensing business, there's a very unique sort of thing that we all understand about how this business works. So obviously reaching out to somebody that is already in this industry is probably preferred for sure, because they're going to understand what you're going through. Envision your success, right? Visualize what your future looks like with those royalties coming in, with your full-time income being had, with you not having to go to the day job, with you only having to do what you love to do, which is creating music. It's all about you. It's like all this stuff happens right here, right now, between your ears, in your brain, and this is the choices that you got to make right now. Okay. You're not going to wait until you get royalties before you start to feel, okay, now I'm successful. You need to feel that success right now so that it allows you to create really smart choices and create that system of productivity and just feeling really good throughout this waiting period that you're in right now. Okay. It's all about right now, the vision that you create for yourself. This is a fun graphic. You probably have seen this one. So most of you guys think that top one up there is the path that you're on right now. And it is completely not the path that you are on. The reality is the one down there. As you can see, at any one point of there, when you are in the low, a lot of people think, like, you know, where this guy is at with the water here, you can think, oh, that's a disappointing royalty check. And so a lot of them think, well, there it is. That's the end of my career. It's just going downhill, right? Seems like that in the moment. But if you just stick around, you hang in there and you realize, oh, that was a part of the journey, right? This dip right here was a part of the journey. I wasn't going the wrong direction. It was actually a part of my journey towards where I want to go. And the other thing that's misleading about this graphic is it almost seems like, well, you see these little sunshines. It's like, okay, there's the path. That's even misleading. That doesn't exist. There's nothing here at the other end that's like smooth sailing where it's easy. Challenges, this is basically life right here, okay? But basically where you are now, wherever you feel that you are, you certainly will be on a better place. You know, you'll have more income, you'll have more success, you'll feel a lot more secure about, of course. But it's not like you're not going to get some dips, you're not going to get some rain, you're not going to get some boating. You're going to have to go or walk through a ladder or something like that. No, there is no such thing as the finish line. We are on planet Earth and we are on our journeys in life, right? There is really no finish line unless you want to call your death the finish line, okay? So until then, you just expect this. All of this stuff is going to be a part of the journey, okay? So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helps to create new patterns of thinking for yourself, create a new vision for yourself, and to really put you on a path to get through this really tough waiting period, waiting for those royalties. Really tricky, but just remember, it's a part of the plan. You're on the right path if you're feeling anything that we've talked about in this presentation.